Hi friends, this is Anders Ibsen from Windermere Professional Partners, managing broker of Anders Ibsen Homes. Now, if you're thinking of buying a new home, you may be a first-time buyer, or you may already own a home. And if that's the case, then the question inevitably becomes what to do with the current home. Now, some of us in the situation may just choose to keep it as a rental and just rent it out. And that's a sound strategy, but the reality is that most of us probably don't want to be landlords because of all the work and all the regulation that entails. So inevitably, what that also means is selling the old place. But how to accomplish that and when to accomplish that? Now, a lot of this just depends on your circumstances. Some people may just have finances that are comfortable enough to just buy a second house while you still own your first one and just take that second mortgage on until you move in and then sell your old place after the fact. Not a lot of us can do that, but some of us can. Others might want to sell the old place first, maybe find some temporary arrangements like an Airbnb or live with family for a bit until you buy the next place. And still others might just want to leverage the equity in their current home using something like a bridge loan or a home equity line of credit, and basically using your current home equity as the down payment on your next place. These can all work. But it just doesn't work for a lot of people because maybe you bought your first home with a VA or an FHA loan, and you just don't have the home equity for leveraging your house. Or maybe you have young children and the idea of moving twice sounds like a nightmare. And most of us probably can't take on a second mortgage just out of the blue like that. So for people in those situations, something that a lot of people do who have to both buy and sell at the same time is what's known as a contingent offer, which is where you write an offer on your new place subject to your old home selling. And if that sounds complicated, you're absolutely right. It's not simple. But contingent offers can be a real strategy for people who want two concrete benefits. The first benefit is you only have to move once. And the second benefit is that you don't have to take on any extra debt in doing so. You can just have your one mortgage payment and then move on to the next house. Now, first, in talking about contingent offers, a little known fact. There are actually two completely different kinds of contingent offers. They use different contract forms and they have many different pros and cons. And what those forms are called is 22B and 22Q. 22B contingent offers are the kind that you're probably the most familiar with. And what they involve is writing an offer to the seller on the new place. And what you are promising to do is to accept an offer on your old place. And then once you do accept an offer in your current house, then you just work to closing on both houses at the same time. Whereas 22Q offers are when you have already accepted an offer on your current house, so you're already pending, and what you're promising to the seller of the new place is that you will close on your old place before you close on the new place. So notice the subtleties. These are similar, but they're different because, again, with one, you have not yet accepted an offer and you're promising to do that within a certain period of time, whereas with the 22Q offers, you're already pending and you're promising to close on one before you close on the other. So naturally, there are some pros and cons and different strategic implications for each of these different kinds of contingent offers. So for example, generally, in my experience, 22B offers tend to favor the buyer more because there's significantly more flexibility in the timelines. You usually have a certain period of time to get an offer accepted on your house. It can be negotiated, but generally the default is about 45 days. And then once you do accept an offer, the closing timeline on your new place is set in stone. You basically work on closing for both transactions at the same time, and it's really merciful. If there happen to be delays on the closing of your old place, that's just baked into the closing timeline of the new place. So it's very flexible for your circumstances, and that, among other reasons, is why 22B offers usually tend to favor the buyer, all things considered. Whereas 22Q offers, you're basically stuck on the timeline for that seller that you're buying the house from. And if you can't close on time, well, that's your problem. You have to figure something out. So naturally, 22Q offers tend to favor the seller a little bit more than the buyer. But why would you want to use that if that's the case? Well, that brings us to the other implication, which is which of those contract forms you use has a lot to do with what kind of market you're in. So generally speaking, if you're in a fast-paced seller's market, like we had during the COVID era, for example, then unfortunately, all things being equal, you're probably going to be hard-pressed to get your offer accepted if you're using a 22B contingency, because if you're competing against other offers and they're not contingent, then you're at a pretty big disadvantage. And I'm not saying that you can't get an offer accepted if you're contingent with that particular form, but you would have to make everything just frickin' awesome for that seller to even consider you. Whereas in slower markets, like ones featuring higher mortgage rates, for example, 22B type offers stand a much better chance of acceptance because generally, if you're offering, it's probably the only offer the seller is going to see on the table. And at that point, from the seller's perspective, beggars can't be choosers. Whereas with a 22Q offer, where you have already accepted an offer, and maybe a step further, maybe you've already passed the inspection clause of the buyer buying your home, and you've already gotten to the point where you can make the argument to the seller that, hey, this thing is as good as closed, you should accept our offer. And you can have a much better chance of getting your offer accepted in a competitive environment with 22Q versus 22B if you already have accepted an offer on your house. So that's just one of many implications. Now, regardless of what kind of market you're in or what contract forms you're using, there are a couple of constants. One of which is the key to being a successful contingent buyer is being a disciplined contingent seller. And that means that everything from your list price strategy, the condition of your home, the presentability of your home and its curb appeal, and your receptiveness to showings and your responsiveness to making the home available to buyers who want to see it, all of that has to be completely dialed in, because when you're coordinating both a purchase and a sale at the same time, there is zero room for error. The other key to success is just making sure you're working with a professional who has direct experience with contingency type situations and has a good system in place for seamlessly coordinating that purchase and that sale at the same time. Because there are a lot of moving parts, there are a lot of contradictory timelines, and it takes a really good skill set and a good communication structure to make sure that nothing falls between the cracks. Because the fact is, contingent offers are not for everyone. They can be very complicated, and even these things that I've just described is just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to it than that. And some people might be perfectly fine selling first and then taking a pause before they make their next purchase. Some people might just have the financial wherewithal to just eat a second mortgage for a while, and other people just have lots of home equity they can use to just make a big down payment. But if that's not you, if you just want to move once and you don't want to take on any extra debt in finding your next home, then contingent offers, when done professionally, can be a winning strategy. So if you think this applies to you, or you just have general questions about what this process looks like, or just general market questions, I'm always happy to hear from you. Please feel free at any time to call, text, or email me. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you have a great day.